Okay. Good morning. I'm Denise Smiler, Chair of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. I would like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices at this time. Also, while masks are no longer mandatory, please feel free to wear a mask if you believe it is necessary or required or for your own well-being. Before we begin our meeting, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Commissioner Sarah Manzano-Diaz. This past Friday, May 19th, 2023, Sarah received the 2023 ALDEA Women of Merit Lifetime Achievement Award. This award was definitely bestowed upon the right person. Sarah has never forgotten where she's come from. She was raised in Harlem, New York projects by two loving and supportive parents. Sarah has made it her life's work to break barriers and advocate for those who do not have a voice, especially minorities, women, girls, and the most vulnerable. We're very proud of you, Sarah. Would everyone please join me in congratulating Sarah on this well-deserved recognition? Would you like to say a few words, Sarah?
I would just like to say thank you so much. I really appreciate your support.
Our pleasure. It was a wonderful event. Sarah has helped so many people, she doesn't even remember them all. Actually, one of my former deputies who I invited was there because Sarah gave her very first job. And Sarah said, I didn't remember that. I said, yeah, because you helped so many people. So keep up the good work, Sarah. Okay. With 7 board members present, I'd like to call today's meeting to order. In addition to the 7 board members, we also have our ex officio members, Stacy Connors, representing Pat Brown, Acting Secretary for the Department of Revenue, George Augusto, representing Russell Redding, Secretary for the Department of Agriculture, and Jennifer Langen, representing Stacy Garrity, State Treasurer. Thank you all for joining us. I'd ask everyone now to please stand and join me in a recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
By way of announcements, the board held an executive session yesterday, Tuesday, May 23rd, to discuss personnel matters pending litigation and to conduct quasi-judicial deliberations relating to matters coming before the board. Our first order of business this morning is the consideration of the board meeting transcript and minutes from March 22nd, 2023. I have a motion, please, to approve the transcript and minutes of the board's March 22nd, 2023 meeting.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board approve the minutes and transcript of March 22nd, 2023 meeting.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted. Now we will hear from our Executive Director, Kevin O'Toole.
Good morning, Chair Smiler and members of the board. For
morning.
today's Executive Director's report, I would like to present 3 very recent initiatives that illustrate cashless gaming processes that are being implemented at land-based casinos in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Initially, it is important to note that casinos are among the most cash-intensive businesses in the world, where customers must either carry cash or access it inside the casino to play slot machines, table games, and poker. That is starting to change in a growing number of casino jurisdictions, including Pennsylvania, where processes are being adopted pursuant to sound internal controls that authorize non-cash methods for accessing funds to gamble with. The first illustration is this week. Parks Casino Shippensburg began a field trial and a soft launch of its cashless funds application for slot machine players. Players can transfer funds to a slot machine from their digital wallet that is set up through a licensed payment processor. The digital wallet is integrated with the park's Player Rewards mobile application. This technology was also launched earlier by Parks Casino Ben Salem in August of 2022. The second illustration, Rivers Philadelphia just successfully completed a 30-day test period of a casino credit system for slot machine players that does not utilize the traditional counter check to transfer the funds requested by the patron. Rather, a cashless funds transfer occurs electronically to increase the balance in the patron's electronic wallet by the amount of the requested funds. The patron is then able to download funds from their electronic wallet to the slot machine as wagering credits, and the patron can play the slot games using those credits. An important feature of this cashless credit system is that any winnings incurred by the patron are automatically applied to any existing balance on the patron's approved credit line. In this way, a patron does not take home winnings unless the winnings exceed the approved credit line withdrawals. The final illustration of cashless wagering that I would like to mention began this past Friday, when a 30-day test period began for a table game voucher system, which allows patrons to bring their slot machine cash-out vouchers to a table game and exchange those vouchers for gaming chips for the play at the table game. This is another illustration of a cashless gaming process being implemented at a Pennsylvania licensed casino. And in this case, it is with the Valley Forge Casino Resort. So in addition to a 30-day test period, the conditions that are required when a cashless system is sought to be implemented consist of the following. Number one, team members at the casino must be trained on the system. Number two, the board's gaming lab must have tested the system. Number three, all internal controls must have been submitted and approved. And finally, revenue audit must be observed by board personnel during various times of the test period and determined to be in compliance with board regulations. This cashless technology is becoming increasingly popular as it offers a more convenient and secure payment option for players, while reducing transaction times and allowing for easier tracking of financial transactions within the casinos. Thank you, Chair. That concludes my report for today.
Thank you, Kevin. Very nice developments going on. Next, we will hear from the Human Resources Director, Danette Bixler-George.
Good morning, Chair, board members. The Office of Human Resources has one motion for your consideration today relative to the hiring and ratification of one individual that was offered and accepted employment with the board between public meetings. By way of background, Deb Joyce, the board's current records manager and open records officer under the Right to Know law, is retiring effective June 16th, 2023. And we wish her well and thank her for her service to the board since August 6th, 2005. Yes, Deb is one of the original employees to the board. She has been a long-standing and valued member of our staff. In order to allow for the transfer of Deb's knowledge and the orderly transition of her duties, and to ensure that the board continues to address its regulatory obligations in a timely manner, Luana D. Bernardes, was offered and accepted employment as the records manager in the Office of Chief Counsel. Luana has completed the background investigation and drug screening and was approved for hire between public meetings by the executive director. As such, I ask that you consider a motion ratifying the hiring of Luana as the records manager.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the applicant for hire as proposed by the Human Resources Director.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danette. We will now hear from the Office of Chief Counsel.
Morning.
Morning.
Today, the board has one petition before it for consideration. The petition is Stephen Knight's petition to lift the suspension of his gaming employee occupation permit. This matter will be decided on the documentary record by agreement of the parties, or really because OEC does not have any objection to the petition, Mr. Knight's petition. And the board has, in advance of this meeting, received all the documents filed of record prior to today. By way of background, Mr. Knight had worked as a count room representative at Harrah's Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack. In October of 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for an emergency suspension of Mr. Knight's permit after receiving notice that he had been charged with a felony and a misdemeanor stemming from allegations that he lied on an application to purchase firearms. Specifically, he answered no to a question asking whether he had ever been convicted of a crime punishable by more than 1 year in prison, when that was not, in fact, the case. Mr. Knight has a prior misdemeanor theft conviction. As a result of the felony charge, the board's executive director issued an emergency order suspending Mr. Knight's gaming employee occupation permit as requested by Enforcement Counsel. A hearing in this matter was held, and subsequently the board issued an order on January 25th, 2023, upholding the suspension of Mr. Knight's permit. In March of 2023, Mr. Knight filed a request to lift the suspension of his permit, stating that he entered into a plea agreement resulting in the dismissal of the felony charge, and his conviction related to the firearms application was on a misdemeanor. As noted, the Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection to Mr. Knight's request that the suspension be lifted, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Knight is still on probation, is that correct?
He is presently on probation, yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board deny Stephen Knight's petition to lift suspension of gaming employee occupation permit as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Just in time. Presenting the rest of the Office of Chief Counsel's matters will be Deputy Chief Counsel Chad Zimmerman.
Good morning, Commissioners. The next matter before the board for consideration pertains to several unopposed petitions to withdraw applications or surrender the credentials of the following individuals and entities: Wayne Douglas Kimmel, Shiri Ben Yishai, Mizuma Inc., Guthrie Glass and Mirror Inc., IGT US DNB G LLC, IGT US DNB Holdings LLC, IGT DNB Holdings Limited, Matthew Merman, Konstantinos Chiropoulos, Trevor John, Luis Pinedo, Masumi Fujisawa, Stephen Allen Richards Jones, and Adi Dembhandia. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objections to any of these withdrawals or surrenders, and as a result, if the board chooses to do so, it would be granting the request without prejudice to the requester. These matters are all now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board issue orders to approve the withdrawals and surrenders as described by the Office of Chief Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board for consideration are 10 reports and recommendations received from the Office of Hearings and Appeals. These reports and recommendations, along with the evidentiary record for each hearing, have been provided to the board in advance of this meeting. Additionally, the persons involved have been notified that the board would be considering their matter today, and that each may have the ability to come forward and address the board if they so choose. If any persons who are the subject of one of these reports and recommendations would like to address the board, I would ask them to come forward when their matter is called. Joseph Putiri is the first report and recommendation before the board today. Mr. Putiri held a gaming level 2 occupation permit and worked as a table game supervisor at Valley Forge Casino Resort. On September 8, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a complaint to revoke Mr. Putiri's gaming level 2 employee occupation permit, alleging that he stole gaming chips during the course of his employment. A hearing was held on February 9, 2023. However, prior to the hearing, OEC and Mr. Putiri submitted a stipulation of facts, which included supporting documents that the parties agreed to make a part of the record. Mr. Putiri also testified on his own behalf at the hearing, while OEC did not present any additional evidence. According to the parties' stipulation, on 2 separate occasions while performing his duties as a table game supervisor, Mr. Putiri took a total of $2,500 in gaming chips, placing them in his jacket pocket. Mr. Putiri was terminated and charged with 2 felony theft offenses. He was ultimately admitted into the Accelerated Rehabilitative Disposition Program, which will result in the criminal charges being dismissed and his record expunged if successfully completed. Mr. Putiri testified that he is 67 years old, has worked in the gaming industry for over 30 years, and has never had any prior incidents of work-related misconduct, and that once his ARD is completed, his record will be clean. Mr. Putiri also challenged some of the evidence cited in OEC's complaint, but also stated that he was not denying the allegations of taking the chips. After hearing all the evidence in the matter, the report and recommendation issued recommends that Mr. Putiri's permit be revoked. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano-Diaz moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and revoke Joseph Putiri's gaming employee occupation permit.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Tiffany Akers is the next report and recommendation before the board today. Ms. Akers requests removal from the board's involuntary exclusion list. By way of background, in February of 2018, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Tiffany Akers, then Tiffany Bradley, on the board's involuntary exclusion list after being notified that she had left her 8-year-old daughter and her daughter's 11-year-old friend unattended in her vehicle for 40 minutes at Lady Luck Casino. A hearing in the matter was held, and the board issued an order in July of 2019 placing Ms. Bradley on the involuntary exclusion list. In July of 2022, Ms. Akers filed the instant petition requesting removal from the list. The Office of Enforcement Counsel objects to her request. A hearing in this matter was held on February 1st, 2023. Ms. Akers and OEC both attended the hearing, putting evidence into the record. Ms. Akers testified that the 2017 incident occurred because she initially went to the Nemacolin Resort to make a purchase, but then decided to visit the casino and use promotional play credits she had been issued. She further stated that at that time she did not believe she was doing anything wrong, but understands now that it was wrong to leave the children alone in a vehicle and she would not do it again. Following the hearing, the report and recommendation was issued recommending denial of Ms. Akers' request for early removal from the list, as she did not present evidence of extraordinary circumstances that would warrant her removal for at least the 5 years elapsing. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Tiffany Akers remain on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next before the board is a report and recommendation pertaining to Nabil Jabbour. On March 11, 2021, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place Nabil Jabbour on the exclusion list, alleging that he was laundering money at the Meadows Racetrack and Casino, now called Hollywood Casino at the Meadows. Mr. Jabbour requested a hearing which was held in December of 2022. The Office of Enforcement Counsel appeared presenting testimony and documentary evidence. Mr. Jabbour failed to attend the initial hearing, but contacted Hearings and Appeals the following day to request a new hearing, which was held in February of 2023. Mr. Jabbour appeared at the February hearing and testified on his own behalf. OEC was also present but did not present any further evidence. Testimony and evidence presented by OEC showed that Mr. Jabbour, a physician, attempted to launder cash he had obtained unlawfully from selling a controlled substance. He was convicted of 2 felony criminal counts for which he received and served 1 year of incarceration. Mr. Jabbour also relinquished his medical license. During Mr. Jabbour's testimony at the February hearing, he testified that he had previously self-excluded from gaming for a 2-year period, that he had attended counseling during that time, and he should not be excluded now because he had already served a period of self-exclusion on his own. Following a hearing, the report and recommendation issued recommends that Mr. Jabbour be placed on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Jabbour did file exceptions to this recommendation, reiterating that the 2-year self-exclusion period should be enough, and he received counseling for his gambling problem. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board adopt the report and recommendations issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that Nabil Jabbar be placed on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
DeVern McCrae's report and recommendation is next before the board. On July 6, 2022, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a petition to place DeVern McCrae on the involuntary exclusion list, alleging that on June 4, 2021, Ms. McCrae took another patron's voucher at Rivers Casino Pittsburgh. A hearing in this matter was held on November 30th, 2022. OEC appeared at the hearing and presented testimony and documentary and surveillance evidence. Ms. McCrae failed to appear at the hearing, but later requested that the record be reopened so she could testify. Her request was granted, and a new hearing was held in January of 2023, at which point Ms. McCrae appeared and testified on her own behalf. Evidence presented showed that a patron at Rivers Pittsburgh dropped a voucher, which was ultimately found and cashed out by Ms. McCrae and another individual, Rhonda Smith. The voucher was valued at $533.97. Ms. McCrae testified she does not remember the incident in question because she had been drinking at the time, and that she did not know Ms. Smith, and she'll pay whatever restitution she owes. Ms. McCrae further denies picking up the voucher. Following a hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that Ms. McCrae be placed on the list, and this matter is now ripe for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that DeVern McCrae be placed on the involuntary exclusion list.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
The next report and recommendation before the board stems from a request for removal from the casino self-exclusion list by an individual with the initials AAB. The Office of Enforcement Counsel filed an answer objecting to this request. A hearing in this matter was held on January 5, 2023. OEC appeared and presented testimony and documentary evidence. AAB failed to appear at the hearing, and the hearing was held in her absence. Pursuant to the uncontested findings of fact in the report and recommendation, on May 4, 2015, AAB met with a board employee at Rivers Pittsburgh and requested to be placed on the board's self-exclusion list, choosing the lifetime exclusion option. Testimony explained the process that AAB went through to place herself on the list, and also showed that AAB had violated self-exclusion in 2016 by entering the Meadows before being identified as a self-excluded individual. The report and recommendation issued recommends that AAB's request for removal from the list be denied, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that AAB remain on the casino self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next report and recommendation before the board stems from a request for removal from the interactive gaming self-exclusion list, and also a request to recover a jackpot won at Rivers, Philadelphia. On June 4, 2022, an individual with the initials BLR submitted a request through the board's website to be placed on the interactive gaming self-exclusion list, choosing the 5-year self-exclusion option. On October 12, 2022, BLR filed the instant petition before the board. OEC filed an answer objecting to the request to come off the list, but agreeing to the return and recovery of funds. A hearing in this matter was held on January 17, 2023. OEC and BLR both appeared and presented testimony and documentary evidence. OEC presented evidence showing that BLR had properly filled out all the self-exclusion forms, signing the acknowledgments and selecting the exclusion period, acknowledging that he was excluding from iGaming, that he may be prohibited from other forms of gaming at brick-and-mortar casinos, and that it was his responsibility to learn the policies of each licensee and operator. Testimony at the hearing also showed that it is currently Rivers Philadelphia's policy to exclude patrons on the iGaming self-exclusion list from their brick-and-mortar casinos. On October 5th, 2022, BLR was gaming at Rivers, Philadelphia, and won a $25,000 jackpot. Consequently, it was then discovered he was on the iGaming self-exclusion list, and he was notified he would not be able to claim his jackpot until he was no longer on the iGaming self-exclusion list and was issued a ban from the casino. BLR provided testimony ultimately indicating he is not opposed to staying on the iGaming self-exclusion list, but would like to claim his winnings as he would like to use the money to start a business for which he has already drafted the articles of incorporation, an EIN, and a business plan. After hearing the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending that BLR's request for removal from the iGaming self-exclusion list be denied, but the report further recommends that BLR be permitted to recover the $25,000 jackpot, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearing and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that BLR remain on the iGaming self-exclusion list. I further move that BLR is entitled to collect the $25,000 jackpot he won.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next is a report and recommendation from another request to be removed from a self-exclusion list. By way of background, on the September 24th, 2017, an individual with the initials DG met with a casino compliance representative at Parks Casino, placing himself on the casino self-exclusion list for the lifetime. Subsequently, DG filed a petition with the board in November of 2022 requesting removal from the list. A hearing on DG's request was held on February 7th, 2023. The Office of Enforcement Counsel and DG both appeared presenting testimony and documentary evidence. Evidence presented by OEC showed that the casino compliance representative conducted the mandatory interview with DG, explaining the process of being placed on the list and the consequences of each exclusion period. Thereafter, all paperwork and procedures were completed, and DG signed the acknowledgement form selecting lifetime. DG, a Maryland resident, testified that he did not realize that being on the Pennsylvania exclusion list would also potentially ban him from live casino in Maryland pursuant to that company's internal policies. After hearing all the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending denial of DG's request for removal from the list, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearing and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that DG remain on the casino self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next is GN's report and recommendation. On September 27, 2022, GN filed a petition for early removal from the casino self-exclusion list. OEC filed an objection to the request, and a hearing on the matter was held in January of 2023. OEC and GN both appeared at the hearing, offering testimony and documentary evidence. Evidence presented at the hearing showed that on December 12, 2018, GN appeared at Rivers Casino Pittsburgh, meeting with a board employee who conducted the mandatory interview and helped GN be placed on the self-exclusion list for a period of 5 years. Evidence also showed that GN had previously self-excluded in 2011 for 5 years, successfully removing himself after that period had expired. During the hearing, GN did not dispute that he placed himself on the list knowingly and voluntarily, and that he was a gambling addict at the time, but the self-exclusion program has helped him tremendously, and he believes he can now gamble responsibly. Subsequent to the hearing, a report and recommendation was issued recommending denial of GN's request for early removal, as he did not present evidence of enough extraordinary circumstances which would allow his removal from the list before the duration of his exclusion expired. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that GN remain on the casino self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next is another report and recommendation stemming from a request for removal from a self-exclusion list. On October 6, 2021, an individual with the initials GY submitted a request for removal, or submitted a request through the board's website to be placed on the casino self-exclusion list, choosing a 5-year exclusion option. OEC filed an answer objecting to the request, and a hearing was held in January of 2023. OEC and GY both appeared at the hearing, presenting testimony and documentary evidence. GY testified on his own behalf. OEC provided testimony from the Director of the Board's Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling regarding the self-exclusion documents and acknowledgments that GI was required to sign, and the process that GI had to go through to be placed on the list, including notices that licensees could ban them from other venues, both gaming and non-gaming. GY testified that he is currently a salesman and believes he may not be able to perform the duties of his job when it comes to selling products to casinos. He additionally testified that he is a Maryland resident and was unaware that being on the Pennsylvania-based list may exclude him from casinos in Maryland, whose parent company also holds a license in Pennsylvania. He did not dispute that he knowingly and voluntarily placed himself on the list, but he is requesting the board to take into consideration the 18 months of good behavior on the list and believes he can now game responsibly. After hearing all the evidence presented, a report and recommendation was issued recommending GY's request be denied. However, it is worth noting that there is a process that an individual on the self-exclusion list can do business in Pennsylvania casinos if they follow through with the regulation to do so. This matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel and that GY remain on the casino self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
The final report and recommendation before the board today pertains to a last request for removal from the casino self-exclusion list. An individual with the initials JW filed a petition with the board in August of 2022 requesting removal from the list. A hearing in this matter was held November 29, 2022. OEC appeared and presented testimony and documentary evidence. However, JW failed to attend the hearing and it was held in his absence. Pursuant to the uncontested findings of fact in the report and recommendation in this matter, in January of 2016, JW met with a casino compliance representative at Mount Airy Casino Resort and placed himself on the self-exclusion list, choosing the lifetime exclusion option. The CCR who placed JW on the list testified he conducted the mandatory interview with JW and completed all the required procedures and paperwork. Thereafter, JW signed the acknowledgement form selecting the lifetime self-exclusion option. The CCR further testified that JW did not appear to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs, nor did he appear to be coerced into placing himself on the list. Ultimately, the report and recommendation finds that JW's petition should be denied and he should remain on the self-exclusion list, and this matter is now ready for the board's consideration.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board adopt the report and recommendation issued by the Office of Hearings and Appeals as described by the Office of Chief Counsel, and that JW remain on the casino self-exclusion list.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Very thankful that Chad showed up to make his presentation after his conference call. That concludes the matters of the Office of Chief Counsel.
Thank you, Steve and Chad. We will now have the Bureau of Licensing matters presented by the Director of the Bureau of Licensing, Sean Hannon.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Today's first licensing matter for your consideration is the approval of an interactive gaming manufacturer license for Green Tube GmbH. Green Tube is a manufacturer of interactive slot games and table games. Formed on July 14th, 2000, Green Tube principal place of business is Vienna, Austria. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. As a result, the license approval is ready for your consideration. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to approve the interactive gaming manufacturer license for Green Tube GmbH.
Cyrus Petrie, Office of Enforcement Counsel. The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Regan moves that the board grant the interactive gaming manufacturer license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next licensing matter for your consideration is the renewal of the table game manufacturer license of Count R GmbH. Count R is a developer of ticket redemption machines at table games. Count R GmbH has asked the board grant it a reduced licensing fee for its table game manufacturer license. The renewal fee for a manufacturer is $150,000 for a 5-year license. Under the Gaming Act, the board may modify the fee for a table game manufacturer if it determines that the fee will unreasonably limit table game devices or associated equipment. Consistent with this provision of the Act, the Bureau of Licensing has adopted a reduced licensing fee policy, which has previously been presented to the board. Count R has requested a reduced licensing fee of $0, which is consistent with the Bureau's policy. The Bureau of Licensing recommends the board grant the reduced fee. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has completed its investigation of the company, and the Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report regarding the renewal. I have provided you with a draft order and asked the board consider the order to renew the table game manufacturer license for Count R GmbH with a reduced licensing fee of $0.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the table game manufacturer renewal license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
In addition, we have consideration of a VGT establishment license for DM Bowman Incorporated, doing business as Bowman Logistics, who has previously been approved for a conditional license. VGT establishments are truck stops seeking to have a terminal operator licensee place VGTs at their location. The Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has now completed its investigation, including evaluation that the applicant meets the VGT establishment eligibility criteria in the Gaming Act. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a background investigation and suitability report. I have provided you with a draft order and ask that you consider the order to license DM Bowman Incorporated, doing business as Bowman Logistics, located at 318 Laurel Crest Road in Somerset.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board grant the video gaming terminal establishment license as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Next, there are principal, key employee, gaming service provider affiliates, and qualifier licenses. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with a proposed order for 17 principals, 17 key employees, 1 gaming service provider affiliate, and 1 gaming service provider qualifier. I ask that the board consider the order approving these licenses.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board grant the principal, key employee, gaming service provider affiliate, and qualifier licenses as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
There are also key employee temporary credentials. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order regarding the issuance of temporary credentials for 20 key employees. I ask the board consider the order approving these credentials.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board grant the temporary key employee credentials as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Next for your consideration are gaming employee permits and non-gaming employee registrations. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with a list of 692 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted temporary or full occupation permits, and 260 individuals to whom the Bureau has granted registration under the authority delegated to the Bureau of Licensing. I ask the board consider a motion approving the order.
The Office of Enforcement Counsel has no objection.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the applications for gaming employee occupation permits and non-gaming employee registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next, there is a recommendation of denial for 1 gaming applicant and 6 non-gaming applicants. The applicants were notified that they were being recommended for denial and failed to request a hearing within the specified time frame. The Bureau of Licensing has provided you with the order addressing the applicants who the Office of Enforcement Counsel has recommended for denial. I ask the board consider the order approving these denials.
The Enforcement Counsel continues to request denial in each matter.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board deny the gaming and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter for your consideration are withdrawal requests. In each case, the license, permit, or registration is no longer required. For today's meeting, I've provided the board with 1 key employee, 36 gaming, and 15 non-gaming applicants. I ask the board consider the order approving these withdrawals.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board grant the withdrawal of key employee gaming and non-gaming employee applications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
In addition, we have an order to renew the gaming service provider certifications for Wyatt Incorporated, L&H Signs Incorporated, doing business as L&H Companies, Orlando Diefendorfer Electrical Contractors, as well as initially certify Marker Tracks LLC, doing business as Marker Tracks. I have provided you with a draft order and ask the board consider the order certifying these companies.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the gaming service provider certifications as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, for your consideration are gaming service provider registrations. The Bureau of Licensing provided you with an order and an attached list of 7 registered gaming service provider applicants. I ask that the board consider the order registering these gaming service providers.
Enforcement Council has no objection.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the gaming service provider registrations as described by the Bureau of Licensing.
Commissioner Dillon, seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Next is Chief Enforcement Counsel Cyrus Petrie.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. The Office of Enforcement Counsel will present 20 matters today for the board's consideration, in which we will request the approval of 2 consent agreements, 2 suspensions, 2 revocations, and 14 involuntary exclusions. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Category 4 licensee Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association, LLC, doing business as Hollywood Casino York. The matter will be presented by Assistant Enforcement Counsel Kelsey Scarrato. Representatives for the licensed entity are present, and at this time, I would request that those individuals please introduce themselves for the record.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, ex officio officers. My name is Michael Fabius from the law firm Ballard Spahr. To my left is Ruben Warren, Ruben Warren, General Manager at Hollywood Casino York. To his left is Alex Vizda, who you probably recognize, Alexhvizda, Director of Compliance. I'll let Ruben stand to be sworn in.
Do you swear you don't swear to you firm, so truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
So help you God.
Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement reached between Hollywood Casino York and the Office of Enforcement Counsel regarding a failure to meet minimum security staffing requirements. Specifically, between May 29th, 2022 and September 17th, 2022, Hollywood Casino York failed to meet the minimum security staffing requirements for a period of time during at least 1 shift on a total of 55 gaming days. During each of these incidents, 1 or more mandated security positions were vacant. Through the internal controls process, the board approved specific security staffing levels, which are required to be submitted pursuant to the board's regulations that are maintained during all hours of operations. Therefore, Hollywood Casino York's failure to meet the minimum staffing requirements violates board-approved internal controls. The OEC and Hollywood York respectfully request that the board approve the consent agreement and stipulations of settlement, that Hollywood Casino York pay a civil penalty of $78,000, as well as a $2,500 administrative fee for costs incurred by the board staff in connection with this matter. I believe I also forgot to introduce myself for the record. Kelsey Scarrato, SCIRROTTO, Assistant Enforcement Counsel with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Hollywood, would you like to address the board?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Briefly, yes. Again, my name is Michael Fabius from the law firm Ballard Spahr. I first and most obviously I want to say that we concur in the recitation of facts by Office of Enforcement Counsel. I also want to acknowledge that the consent agreement included a summary of the efforts Hollywood Casino York undertook to recruit and increase its staffing. It was at times a little bit 2 steps forward, 1 step back in the efforts of natural employee churn. And I want to, again, just give Ruben the opportunity to update what you see in the consent agreement.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Just a high-level overview of the period of time that we were working to try to get minimum staffing was the period almost right after COVID. Employees were, of course, calling out, and we were attempting to fill those positions through job fairs outside of the organization. Every Tuesday, we had open house for the community to come in to fill those positions as well. Internally, we mandated overtime, provided overtime pay to our employees, hosted, again, job fairs, recruited the leadership of Herb Baker. Herb Baker is a Pennsylvania resident who joined the military, left Pennsylvania to go to Las Vegas. He's a retired corrections officer in Nevada. He's come back to the East Coast to be closer to his grandchildren. He has one on the way. He has 3 and 1 on the way. But Herb has an extensive background, and his mission when he was hired in July of 2022 was to increase our staffing levels from 36 to 40. We approved him to hire up to 46 staff members. Today, we have 42 employees hired. We have 6 in the process of coming on. We do have one gentleman who's 81 years old that we know is going to retire here in a few months. And so we're going to send him off the right way. But understanding our attrition rates, we have interviewed over 141 people since July. We've hired 21 officers, and again, 6 that's in the process of being hired. We interview and hire on a consistent basis for these positions to ensure that we are compliant. We also hired 2 additional leadership positions, assistant managers, to ensure that we have the proper oversight, creating bridge shifts between the 2 so that we have overlapping coverage from a supervisory standpoint. This also allows us to make sure that if we have call-offs or people that just don't show up to work, that we have the proper coverage. I want to acknowledge that I didn't manage this process the right way during this time period. We exhausted all of our efforts. Penn Entertainment and myself take compliance very seriously, and I'll let Alex kind of fill the gaps and close us out this morning.
Yeah, very briefly, Madam Chair, members of the board, I just want to touch on the topic of public safety because that's our paramount concern, and I know it's a concern that the board has expressed very strongly about in the past. I don't want to say how many staff members we have or how we schedule them on the public record because that's confidential, but when you hear that we're short an officer or 2, I want to assure you that that's not impacting the public safety aspect of it. The parking lots are still being monitored, both with surveillance and with the roving patrols. The police department, the local police department, Spring-Sperry Township, is literally at the other end of our parking lot. And we did an analysis, and even on our busiest times, Fridays and Saturday evenings, we average less than 1 incident per hour. And when I say incident, that includes not only things like intox assessments, but someone reports that they lost a slot ticket or an employee cuts their finger or something like that. So we have plenty of individuals to respond to anything that could affect public safety. What happens when we're down 1 or 2 employees is things that security assists with, which are much broader than public safety, such as escorts for table fills and table credits or TRU replenishment. It's those things that end up taking longer because we need to wait till a security officer is available. But as you know, the property has several hundred cameras. In addition to the security staff, we have dozens of team members on the gaming floor at all times. The parking lot is lit up like an airstrip. So I just want to assure the board that the public safety is still primary in our target. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? I have to say, somebody who's still working at 81, God bless them. So please give them a proper send-off.
Sure will.
And Attorney Scarato, thank you for your brevity and the recitation of facts. So if there are no other comments or questions, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and Mountain View Thoroughbred Racing Association LLC, doing business as Hollywood Casino, York, as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and licensed manufacturer TCS John Huxley America, Inc., TCS John Huxley Europe Limited. The matter will be presented by Senior Enforcement Counsel Michael Rowland. Representatives for the licensed entity are present. At this time, I request that those individuals please introduce themselves for the record.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Marie Jones from Fox Rothschild here on behalf of TCS John Huxley America and TCS John Huxley Europe Limited. By video, we have...
Could you pull the mic closer? I think they're having...
By video, we have Philip Lee. He is CFO and Managing Director for the Americas for the TCS entities, and he's here to help answer any questions. Thank you for allowing him to attend virtually. It's greatly appreciated.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning. Could you...
What was your name again? I'm sorry. I didn't hear.
Marie
I'm sorry, I couldn't
Jones.
quite.
Marie Jones, Jones.
And could you have Mr. Lee identify himself and spell his name and be sworn in for the by the court reporter?
Sir, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Sir, do you swear? If you don't swear, do you affirm? Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
So help you God.
I swear, I do.
And I'm sorry, Marie, could you just make sure the spelling of his name is correct?
It's Phil and then Lee, Lee.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Michael Rowland, ROLAND, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter stems from TCS John Huxley's failure to timely file principal applications with the board. TCS John Huxley is a table game manufacturer. On or about August 18th, 2020, TCS John Huxley informed the Bureau of Licensing that Philip Lee had been appointed as a member of the Board of Directors of TCS John Huxley Europe Limited and as Director, Secretary, and Treasurer of TCS John Huxley America, Inc. Additionally, TCS John Huxley advised that Stephanus Nell had become the Managing Director of TCS John Huxley Europe Limited. On or about August 18th, 2020, the Bureau of Licensing advised TCS John Huxley that principal applications for Mr. Lee and Mr. Nell should be submitted to the board by September 18th, 2020. On or about September 17th, 2020, counsel for TCS John Huxley requested an extension until October 17th, 2020 to submit the principal applications, which was subsequently granted by the Bureau of Licensing. The principal applications for Mr. Lee and Mr. Nell were not received by the Bureau of Licensing until March 15th, 2021, almost 7 months after the Bureau of Licensing had been informed of Mr. Lee's and Mr. Nell's appointment, and 149 days after the extension deadline. As a privately held company, TCS John Huxley failed to file a principal application for Philip Lee or Stephanus Nell within 30 days of acting in their positions in violation of Section 433 8.2E of the board's regulations. TCS John Huxley has replaced staff involved in the matter, has put into place protections to ensure such violations do not occur again in the future. OEC now requests that the board approve this consent agreement and stipulation of settlement entered into between the parties. The terms of the settlement include that TCS John Huxley shall pay a civil penalty in the amount of $22,350 to the board within 5 days of the board's order approving this consent agreement. Also within 5 days, TCS John Huxley shall pay to the board $2,500 for the costs incurred by OEC, BIE, and other related staff in connection with this matter. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to address them at this time.
TCS John Huxley, would you like to be heard?
Yes, By way of additional background, at the time that the two new managing directors were appointed, it was still within the COVID area. They had the compliance manager working remotely, and she'd been with them for a while and handled all of the various filings, and she was who we, as their outside counsel, would contact and say, these applications are due, here's the deadlines, and she would take it from there. Unfortunately, during that time period, she was dealing with some personal issues, and we, as outside counsel and the company officers, thought the applications were completed, and other applications were completed as well. It slowly came to light that that was not the case, not only in Pennsylvania. Mr. Lee contacted me and asked us to start a compliance review, which we did, and came up with a list of various jurisdictions. The company had already terminated the former compliance manager in January of 2021, and then within that time period, right after that, we were looking at what needed to be filed still, where things had been missed, and we were getting the applications together for them. They have since hired a very experienced compliance manager. They've also hired additional staff in their compliance department, as well as instituting a tracking system that alerts them of the internal deadlines as well as the external, and keeps them on track for all licensing applications and any type of regulatory filings. I have represented the company since I started practicing law, and they've been licensed in various jurisdictions since starting with New Jersey in 1992, and I can tell you this is the first of any type of compliance type violation like this, and we can assure you, and I know Mr. Lee will say the same, that this will be the last also. They've really enhanced their procedures, and of course realize how important compliance with all the regulations are. Thank you.
Counsel, this compliance officer, when were they hired, the new one?
The new one was probably March.
End of February, March 2021.
Okay, and are they still working remotely, Mr. Lee?
No, they're not. So they're in the office full time, and the same with the support staff that we have now working with the compliance manager. They're also in the office full time. At the same time as well, just one other thing to point out, at the time when this actually occurred, I was based in the UK. I'm now based in the US and have been for the last 12 months. So that also sort of provides an additional sort of hands-on oversight and overview of compliance matters in the US. So we are all based in the same office now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm just curious, what other jurisdictions were you not compliant with?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. There were several jurisdictions and tribal jurisdictions that we needed additional applications to be filed in. There was, I think Pennsylvania was the only state jurisdiction that we had qualifiers missing.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the consent agreement between the Office of Enforcement Counsel and TCS John Huxley America, Inc., TCS John Huxley Europe Limited, as described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
Counsel. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next four matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed complaints seeking the revocation or suspension of gaming occupation permits previously issued by the board. The complaints in each matter have been filed with the board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in each complaint. The individual named in each complaint failed to respond within 30 days as required by board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each respondent. Therefore, the facts in each complaint are deemed admitted. All filed documents have been provided to the board, and the matters are presently ripe for the board's consideration. In each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate board action.
Good morning, Sarah Colasar, Kolesar, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the suspension of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Nicole Clue. Ms. Clue was previously employed as a security officer at Hollywood Casino York. Ms. Clue has been criminally charged with one misdemeanor related to stealing over $100 worth of various merchandise from a Walmart. According to the Associated Criminal Docket, this matter is active and is currently listed awaiting ARD decision. She's not currently employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board suspend the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Nicole Clue.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the suspension of Nicole Clue gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Good morning. David Tepper, TEPPER, on behalf of the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is the suspension of the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Arthur Johnson. Mr. Johnson is currently employed as a table games dealer at Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse. Mr. Johnson failed to comply with a special condition that the board placed on his gaming employee permit, which required him to provide federal tax transcript for 2020, as well as proof that he entered into a payment plan or paid in full any amount owed to the IRS for 2020. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board suspend the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Arthur Johnson.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the suspension of Arthur Johnson's gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Michael Rowland, once again with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next two matters on the agenda are related and are requests to revoke the gaming employee occupation permits issued to Jason Brady and Sandra Yeager. With the board's permission, I'll read one set of facts and then request that the gaming permit for each individual be revoked. Jason Brady, while working at Lady Luck as a security officer, asked Sandra Yeager, a Lady Luck table games dealer, if she knew of anyone who took bets on sports. Ms. Yeager advised that she knew two patrons that could help and that she would introduce them to Mr. Brady the next time they came to the facility. Later that day, the patrons in question arrived at Lady Luck via the front entrance and entered the gaming floor. Ms. Yeager was working as a dealer at the time. While on break, Ms. Yeager was observed approaching the patrons at a blackjack table and then introduced Mr. Brady to the patrons. The group interaction was witnessed by other casino staff and was reported as suspicious. Continued observation of the incident presented numerous continued interactions between Mr. Brady and the patrons throughout the evening. Ms. Yeager and Mr. Brady were confronted about the incident in question and admitted to the efforts to place illegal sports wagers. Jason Brady was terminated from his position at Lady Luck Casino. No criminal charges were filed in the incident. Mr. Brady is presently not employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Jason Brady be revoked.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the revocation of Jason Brady's gaming employee occupation permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Sandra Yeager was terminated from her position at Lady Luck Casino. No criminal charges were filed in the incident. Ms. Yeager is presently not employed in the Pennsylvania gaming industry. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the gaming employee occupation permit issued to Sandra Yeager be revoked.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the revocation of Sandra Yeager's gaming employee occupational permit for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
The remaining matters on the agenda consist of enforcement actions in which the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed petitions seeking the involuntary exclusion of individuals whose presence in a licensed facility are inimical to the interests of the Commonwealth and are licensed gaming therein. In each instance, the petition for exclusion has been filed with the Board's Office of Hearings and Appeal and properly served upon the individual named in the petition. The individual named in each petition failed to respond within 30 days as required by Board regulation. As a result, the Office of Enforcement Counsel filed a request for default judgment in each instance and properly served the same upon each individual. Therefore, all facts in each petition are deemed admitted, all filed documents have been provided to the Board, and the matters are presently ripe for the Board's consideration. In each instance, if the Board orders the proposed exclusion, each individual's photo, personal identifiers, and a summary of their inimical conduct may be placed on the Board's public website. Once again, in each matter, we will provide a brief summary of the facts and make a request for the appropriate Board action.
The next matter on the agenda is a request to place Camilla Chandrika on the involuntary exclusion list. While at Mount Airy Casino and Resort, Ms. Chandrika provided an underage person an identification. The underage person used the identification to gain access to the gaming floor. When confronted, Ms. Chandrika admitted to security that the underage patron was 19 years of age and that she allowed the underage patron to use her identification to gain access to the gaming floor. Ms. Chandrika was not criminally charged for her actions. However, she was permanently evicted from the Mount Airy property. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the Board place Camilla Chandrika on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the Board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the Board approve the addition of Kamala Chandrika to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
The next matter on the agenda is a request to place Florida Saliage on the involuntary exclusion list. While at Wind Creek Casino, Florida Saliage provided her identification to an individual for use by an underage person to unlawfully enter the Wind Creek Casino. The underage person was confronted by security at Wind Creek Casino. The underage individual admitted to being 20 years of age and to being provided Florida Saliage's identification to use to access the casino. Ms. Saliage was not criminally charged by the Pennsylvania State Police, but was permanently evicted from the Wind Creek property. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the Board place Florida Saliage on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the Board approve the addition of Florida Saliage to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Board. Assistant Enforcement Counsel Steve Gorman, Gorman. The next matter on the agenda is a request to place Terrence Brown on the involuntary exclusion list. Terrence Brown illegally moved his bets while playing craps at Harrah's Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack. Surveillance revealed that he illegally moved a $25 bet. Continued observation of Mr. Brown revealed that he illegally moved bets 4 more times. In total, Mr. Brown gained $125 by cheating. He was charged by the Pennsylvania State Police with misdemeanor theft by deception and misdemeanor manipulating win-loss. He was later convicted of summary disorderly conduct. Mr. Brown was permanently evicted from Harrah's. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the Board place Terrence Brown on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the Board approve the addition of Terrence Brown to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda is a request to place Bobby Ranko on the involuntary exclusion list. Bobby Ranko left an 11-year-old child unattended in his vehicle in the parking garage at Live Philadelphia Casino while he went inside to play sportsbook wagers. Security arrived at the vehicle within 1 minute of notification. Mr. Ranko returned to his vehicle and refused to hand over his identification to security. Mr. Ranko also attempted to drive off in his vehicle. The Pennsylvania State Police and the Philadelphia Police Department both responded to speak with Mr. Ranko. In total, Mr. Ranko was away from the child for 28 minutes. No criminal charges were filed. Mr. Ranko was permanently evicted from the casino for his actions. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the Board place Bobby Ranko on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the Board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the Board approve the addition of Bobby Ranko to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Katie Seng on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Ms. Seng was at Harrah's, Philadelphia playing roulette when she stole chips from another patron. The patron noticed missing chips and reported it to Table Games Management. Surveillance was notified and discovered Ms. Seng stealing the chips. Surveillance also identified Ms. Seng stealing chips from other roulette patrons on different days. Security escorted Ms. Seng out of the casino, and she later paid $50 in restitution. The Pennsylvania State Police criminally charged Ms. Seng, and she was convicted of summary disorderly conduct. Ms. Seng had similar incidents at Live Philadelphia around the same time period and was caught stealing a mislaid wallet from another patron at Rivers, Philadelphia. Ms. Seng has been permanently evicted by all 3 casinos. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Katie Seng on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Katie Seng to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Tanner Tillman on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Tillman arrived at Live Pittsburgh and went into the PBR bar and saw another male patron talking to Mr. Tillman's ex-girlfriend. After watching the male patron from across the bar, Mr. Tillman approached and began punching and kneeing the male patron. Other patrons became involved in the altercation while security removed Mr. Tillman. Mr. Tillman left the casino before the Pennsylvania State Police responded. Mr. Tillman then followed his ex-girlfriend to her home, where he assaulted and strangled her. Mr. Tillman was criminally charged and convicted of summary disorderly conduct and summary harassment for the incident inside of the casino. He was charged with felony strangulation, misdemeanor simple assault, summary criminal mischief, and summary harassment for the incident off casino property. Those charges have no publicly known disposition. Mr. Tillman was permanently banned from Live Pittsburgh. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Tanner Tillman on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of Tanner Tillman to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next 2 matters on the agenda are related and are requests to place Garbina Gamble-Snyder and Ojikahim Miller on the involuntary exclusion list. With the board's permission, I'll read one set of facts and request each individual be placed on the exclusion list. Ms. Gamble and Mr. Miller left 5 children unattended in their vehicle in the parking lot at Presque Isle Downs, a casino, while they went inside to play slot machines. The children were ages 2, 4, 5, 11, and 13. They were discovered by other patrons who reported the finding to security. Security arrived at the vehicle within 3 minutes of notification. The children were left unattended for 29 minutes. The Pennsylvania State Police responded to this incident, but no criminal charges were filed. Both individuals were permanently evicted from Presque Isle for their actions. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Garbina Gamble-Snyder on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the addition of Gerbina Gamble-Snyder to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Ojikahim Miller on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of Oja Hakeem Miller to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Good morning. Once again, Kelsey Scarrato with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Gregory Cherbach on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Cherbach left his 10-year-old child in his vehicle, which was parked along the construction fence outside the Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh valet area, while he visited the sports book. The child was discovered by a valet attendant less than 2 minutes after Mr. Cherbach parked. Mr. Cherbach was away from the vehicle for approximately 5 minutes. He was not criminally charged and received a lifetime ban from Rivers. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Gregory Cherbach on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Commissioner Ralston moves that the board approve the addition of Gregory Cherbach to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Edward Harrell on the board's involuntary exclusion list. Mr. Harrell cheated at Live Casino Philadelphia by capping his bet and past posting his bet. He owed restitution in the amount of $285, which he surrendered, and he was permanently evicted. He was charged with misdemeanor taking greater amount and misdemeanor sleight of hand or scheme. The status of the charges are unknown. In addition, Mr. Harrell has a history of disrupting gaming operations at Commonwealth casinos, including cheating incidents at Rivers Casino Philadelphia, Harris Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack, and Parks Casino. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board place Edward Harrell on the involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Manzano Diaz moves that the board approve the addition of Edward Harrell to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Hickernell seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Juan Sanchez, Assistant Enforcement Counsel for the Office of Enforcement Counsel. The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Penny Flynn on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While Ms. Flynn was a patron at Mohegan, Pennsylvania, she left her 2 grandchildren, ages 8 and 9, unattended in a vehicle located in the parking lot of Mohegan, Pennsylvania casino for 45 minutes while she went inside the casino to play slot machines. She was permanently banned from Mohegan, Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania State Police were notified, but no criminal charges were filed. At this time, OEC requests the board place Penny Flynn on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hickernell moves that the board approve the addition of Penny Flynn to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dillon seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
The next matter on the agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place David Gonzalez on the board's involuntary exclusion list. While Mr. Gonzalez was a patron at Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse, he physically fought Pennsylvania state troopers while being taken into custody on the casino floor due to his drunkenness, belligerent behavior, and refusal to leave the casino after they ejected him. The Pennsylvania State Police criminally charged him with felony aggravated assault, misdemeanors resisting arrest, and defying trespass, and lesser summary offenses. This criminal case is awaiting disposition before the Dauphin County Court of Common Pleas. At this time, the OAC requests the board place David Gonzalez on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dillon moves that the board approve the addition of David Gonzalez to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Dermody seconds.
Favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Good morning, Thomas Monahan, Monaghan, with the Office of Enforcement Counsel. Next on my agenda for the board's consideration is a request to place Desiree Custis on the board's involuntary exclusion list. On multiple dates while working as a cashier at a food market within Live Philadelphia Casino, Ms. Custis stole money from her cash drawer at the end of her shift. Ms. Custis was criminally charged and permanently evicted from Live Philadelphia for her actions. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests the board place Desiree Custis on the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Dermody moves that the board approve the addition of Desiree Custis to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board's involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Regan seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
The final matter on the agenda is a request to place David Lee Eilers on the exclusion list. Mr. Eilers was convicted of 2 misdemeanor gambling offenses in North Carolina. Additionally, he operates skill-based games within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Mr. Eilers has made wagers within Pennsylvania-regulated gaming industry and holds a player's club card at least one Pennsylvania casino. At this time, the Office of Enforcement Counsel requests that the board add David Lee Eilers to the board's involuntary exclusion list.
Any questions or comments from the board? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Regan moves that the board approve the addition of David Eilers to the PGCB involuntary exclusion list for the conduct described by the Office of Enforcement Counsel.
Commissioner Ralston seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you. That concludes our business.
Thank you, Cyrus. The last item on the agenda for today is public comment. I understand no one has signed up for public comment, but if there's anyone in the room who would like to address the board, please step forward. Seeing no one. That's great. So that concludes today's meeting. The public meeting, the next public meeting of the board will be held on Wednesday, June 28th, 2023, at 10 a.m. at this location. Now, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Commissioner Ralston makes that motion.
Commissioner Manzano Diaz, second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Meeting's concluded. Thank you very much.